Remember, we just finished learning about all these number 10s we had. We listed them last time also. 10 plagues happened to the Egyptians. 10 miracles happened to our forefathers. 10 was in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple. There were 10 miracles. And then we said there were 10 things that were created right before Shabbat came in, just as the sun was setting, right with the sunset, Erev Shabbat, Bein HaShemashot, right, just as the sun was setting. And this was it. Remember, we learned this last time. Yes, of course you remember. The hole in the earth that swallowed up Korach, and the mouth of the well that gave water for the Jews, and the mouth of Bilam's donkey. Okay, now we're going to start with the number 7. These things are 7s. We're going to Mishnah Zion. There are 7 things in a fool, 7 things in a wise man. Ches, 7 type of punishments come to the world. Then we do 4, number 4. There are 4 different types of personalities, of people. 4 different types of, character traits. 4 different types of pupils, 4 different types of giving charity, 4 different types of people that go to the synagogue, 4 different people of pupils that learn Torah. Okay, that's it. Let's go. 7 and 4. Let's start. We're in the 7s. Here we go. Let's see. I even have my pointer over here. Let's see. Yes. Okay, there are 7 traits of a golem, of a fool, and 7 traits of a wise man. What are they? Listen to this. I'll read them off and you decide yourself what you think you are. Don't think about somebody else. Judge yourself. A wise man does not speak before those who are greater than him in wisdom. He doesn't interrupt people when they're speaking. He is not urgent to reply. He sits and he thinks before he talks. When he asks questions which are relevant, and he gives replies which are according to the Torah. And when he does answer questions, he answers on the first question first. Let's say you ask him 5 questions, so he answers the first one first, and on the last question, he answers last. And also another thing is, what he did not hear, if he does not know an answer to something, he says, Lo shamati, I don't know the answer. Umode ala emet, and he admits the truth. If he made a mistake, he says, I admit that I made a mistake. Once a word, it says 7 things about a fool. What are the things about the fool? All we learned about is wise man. V'chilufeyan begolam, and in a fool, exactly the opposite of all these, right? So now you have to go back and see he doesn't talk in front of someone who's smarter. He does talk in front of someone who's smarter than him. He does interrupt people. He's urgent to give answers even before he thinks about the answer. He asks questions that are totally unrelated to the subject, and he gives answers that are also unrelated to the question. This is the fool. When he answers questions, he does not answer the questions in the proper order. I'm just reversing all these things that he said before. And what he did not hear, he never heard an answer to something, doesn't know, he hacks around an answer anyway. And also, he never admits that he's wrong. Never. These are things, if you want to be a fool, take these principles into mind. You might have to practice a little bit. Generally speaking, not. Usually fools, their foolishness comes natural to them. Usually. To be wise, it's not so natural. All right. Here he gives a nice little explanation here, but let's just learn the big explanation here. Sheva Devorim Begoilam. There are 7 things in a fool. This, by the way, is very interesting what the Kahati says over here. It's very interesting, but I would like to just get into the commentary, the exact commentary. There are 7 things in a fool. Let's get this thing back up there again. There we go. 7 things about a fool and 7 things in a wise man. According what Lafia Golam, Kodem Bizman, because the fool comes first. First of all, a person before he learns, he's a fool. So therefore, it mentions that 7 things about the fool, he mentions it first in the Mishnah. But when he's coming to explain what they are, the Mishnah explains, first of all, the wise men, the wise, the good things, because that's the purpose. That's the purpose of this. We're not coming to learn how to recognize a fool and then to feel superior. No, the purpose is that we ourselves should not be fools, and probably we are, at least to some degree. Well, therefore, we're telling us what qualities we should acquire. So already here it goes. A wise man does not speak before those who are wiser than he. We find the story in Elazar and Itamar. If you remember the tragic story over there, Elazar and Itamar, that their brother Nadav and Avihu, Aaron a Kohen, had 4 sons, Elazar, Itamar, Nadav and Avihu. And Nadav and Avihu went into the Holy of Holies, and they did not speak in front of their father, Kishakatsaf Aleim, Moshe, when Moshe got mad at them. Afterwards, it says that their brothers died and they made sacrifices and they shouldn't. And anyway, you'll have to go over there and read what happened. Nevertheless, they kept quiet. Moshe was greater than them. They didn't speak. And a wise man does not go into the words of doesn't interrupt others. He listens patiently at Devarav, and he does not interrupt in the middle. Shekatuv, like it says, Shimu na Devarai. Listen to my words. Torah, it says in the Midrash called Sifri, Ma Talmudom, what does it say, Shimu na Devarai? Why does it have to say, listen to my words? Of course you're going to listen. That's just talk. Why does it have to say listen? It means that God knew that people wanted to interrupt what he was saying. So God said, Hamtinuli, let me finish speaking. A person should not interrupt others. It's also very maddening, by the way, if you interrupt people, and it's a good way to stop a conversation. And to elevate, elevate the tone of a conversation. Don't let the other person finish, and then he starts talking a little bit louder, and then you interrupt him a little bit louder, etc. That's okay if you want to be a provocateur. But if you want to be a wise man, listen to the other person and let him speak. There's a general principle in life that you should try to agree with everyone. In other words, try to see things from the other person's way of seeing things. Right? If you're uncertain of yourself and you interrupt others, then you're never going to learn. And usually people that interrupt, they just don't want to hear another person's point of view. So therefore, listen to what the other person says in this. I learned this very clearly from Bnei Brak. I lived in Bnei Brak. I think I told you this before. And this is right when I was beginning. And there were a lot of people there in Bnei Brak. It was a big, pastime over there to speak against the Lubavitcher Rebbe. There was one rabbi that encouraged everybody to speak against the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and they're all speaking against him. So it was very painful to me to hear this, and it was also very angering. And at first I would get mad, but I realized there was no point in it. So I started listening to these people, and I started to say, I had this sentence I would say to them. I'd say, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe you've got a point. I don't really know everything about Chabad. I'm sort of new into Chabad. Maybe explain to me why you're saying these things about Lubavitcher Rebbe. As soon as I would say that, they had nothing to say. They were just totally, it was like took all the wind out of their balloon, right? And they had nothing to say. They didn't know what to say. They just, they repeated what they said. I said, I would say to them, that you don't have anything to say, that's okay, but why doesn't it bother you? Why didn't you at least ask? If someone would tell me to hate someone, so I would want to know more details to hate the person better. Maybe must be good reasons just to hate a person for no reason. Maybe the person's a liar, a thief, a cheat, or this, that. So tell me the reasons. No reasons. It doesn't bother you. You don't have any reasons. So when you listen to another person and you listen to him, then from that, it can be the truth comes out. Unless the person is a fanatic. What is the definition of a fanatic? Exactly this. A fanatic is a person that cannot listen to any other opinions. A fanatic is a person that there's only one opinion. His opinion is the only one. That's a fanatic. Therefore, don't be a fanatic. Listen to what the other person has to say. Okay, so we have two things. Two things. First of all, he doesn't speak in front of someone who's greater than him. Number two, he listens to other people, what they have to say. Number three, Eino nivhal hashiv. He is not, feels that he pressed, that he must answer immediately. Eino nechpaz lahashiv. He is not desperate to give. What did I do here? What did I do? Okay, 1 second. There we go. And should be this picture. Okay. I'll put the line that I'm. Oh, you don't have it. Whoa. 1 second. 1 minute. There we go. We'll fix this up. Don't worry. Here we go. I'm sorry. Technical glitch. Here, let's go back. Is this? Yeah? No, it doesn't come back on. Wow. Look at this. Why not? Why doesn't it come on, huh? Things were going so well. Why doesn't I'm trying to get back?
You were working from the telephone, not the computer.
I'm still working from the telephone. I just don't understand why I did the same thing as always. Let's just go off of this whole business. Here we go. Back to the telephone. Back to the telephone. Here we go. Let's go back. Here we are. Yes. Now. Okay, I'm going to, isn't this awful? Huh. Here we go. I got it. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, Eino nechpaz lahashiv is not, doesn't feel he has to urgently, but he mitbonen, but he contemplates first in the words of the one who is asking. Kadesh yedan, so that he should know what to reply to him. Kamosha Omar, like Eliyahu said, Eliyahu ben Birkael Habuzi. Now, what does he say? Hein hochalti. You ever read the book of Job? Read it in English. Very interesting book. Very tragic and very, tragic book. There's some beautiful, beautiful poetry and prose over there. And what is Job gets, these terrible tortures are brought upon him from heaven. And the book starts off where the devil is talking to God, and he says, put him into my hands, and you'll see that he won't believe in you anymore. And all of a sudden, Job, for no reason, just as all these terrible tragedies happen, and 3 of his friends come, and they try to convince him to either stop believing in God or whatever. And one of them was Eliyahu ben Birkael Habuzi. And he says, Hein ochalti divrechem ha'azin ad tavunotechem. He said, I've begun with your words listen to me until you properly understand what I have to say. Okay, Daled. Shoal ke'inyan meshiv ke'alacha. You should ask Dalit. You should ask properly and reply according to the Torah. Shoal ba'oto inyan she'oskim bo. That you should, when you're asking questions, let's say you're learning Torah, don't start asking questions about a totally unrelated subject. Then the rabbi can answer you properly. And similarly, Rav Chaya says the Rav, Zman she'Rebbe omed Masechta zu, he said, when Rabbeinu HaKodesh, the author of the Mishnah, he asked him a question that wasn't related. He didn't give him a proper answer. And he said, the reason is because Rabbeinu HaKodesh, the reason he didn't give you a proper answer is because you asked him in a topic that he's not occupied in now. Al tishalu b'masechat techer. When he's working in one topic, don't ask him questions about another topic. He knows the whole entire Torah. But if you ask him on an unrelated subject, it could be that he'll answer improperly. Yesh mefarshim, some people say that the wise man should answer kahalacha, the eno mitakesh bisforod bilti nechonot l'shem itnatzchut, that the wise man should answer according to the Torah and not be stubborn to answer according to his own understanding. Sometimes a person understands things what he thinks to be in a genius way, very deep, and it's not exactly right? But he pushes it. There's a very common thing. He pushes his answer, he pushes an interpretation that everyone has to accept it, especially if he's a teacher over pupils. The pupils don't know so much, so they have to accept what he says. Next, when you are asked questions, if you're a wise man, you reply to the first question first, and the second question second. Right? The nature of a person is, if you're asked 5 questions, so the most immediate one, the last one, you answer first. That's fresh, right? He says, don't do it. Answer the first question first. She'im sha'alu oto shtei sha'alot, that if you're asked 2 or more questions, harihu meshiv aleim, that you can return. I'm going to try this pointer again. Harihu meshiv aleim, he replies to them. There we go. Yes. Lefia seder, according to the order. Techila ala shala rishona, first of all in the first one. And afterwards, ala shayla haba, on the question that comes after. Became a tzino Rivka. Also, we see Rivka when Eliezer asked her the questions. Bat mi'at hayesh beit avicha makom lana lolin. When Eliezer came and he saw Rivka, she was. He was looking. Eliezer was sent by Yitzchak. She was sent by Yitzchak to find. I'm sorry. He was sent by Avraham. Eliezer was the servant of Avram. Eliezer was sent by Avram to find a bride for his son Yitzchak. And he went and he saw this girl, Rivka. And he asked her, Bat mi'at, whose daughter are you? Ayesh beit avicha makom lanu olin. Is there a place in your father's house for us to sleep? So she answered the first question, Bat Betuel Anochi. She said, I'm the daughter of Betuel. And also, Gam Tevin Begin Mispo Rabbi Manu. And also, we have camel food, and also we have a place for you to sleep. So he answered in the proper order. Al Rishon, Rishon, Al Achron, Achron. First one first, second one second. 6th thing with a wise man. There's only 7, right? 6. Number 6, Al Mash lo Shama, Omer lo Shamati. Things that you didn't hear, admit that you don't know the answer. She'im yesh lecha svora. That if you have an answer, if you have some explanation, be'eza davar, in a certain thing, lo yomar sheshama oto miravotav. Don't say, this is what I heard from my rabbis. It gives it importance, right? It gives it importance. This is what I heard from the Rebbe of Lubavitch said, and he didn't say it. He just made it up. Kadesh kabbalah, another should be accepted. Elohu modev omar, he said, listen, I didn't get this answer for anybody. This is what I think. This is what I think. Oh, that's good. Say that. Be truthful. And number 7, moda ala emet. You have to admit the truth. If someone comes and disagrees with you, don't be stubborn. and try to prove what you're saying, even though you find that the other person's ideas might be right. But no, I want to win. Ela moda ala emet, you should admit the truth, the eno bosh, and don't be ashamed to say ta'iti. You're right, I made a mistake. Became a scene of Moshe, also we see by Moshe Rabbeinu. It says, Vayishma Moshe vayitav beinav. It says Moshe heard and it was good in his eyes. It's the same story over there with the Nadav and Avihu when they died, and he got mad at Aaron and his sons for making a sacrifice, for not making the sacrifice. Omru Chachamim, and Moshe admitted that he was wrong. Omru Chachamim, Hodu v'lo bush. Moshe admitted v'lo bush, and he was not ashamed, Lomar, to say, Lo Shamati, I never heard that law before. Ella Omer Shamati v'shachachti. He said, I heard that law before and I forgot it. I admit it. Baal Tiferes Yisrael, the Baal Tiferes Yisrael, he's the one who said, Mitzayan, as a Seder, Shenachta Mishnasenu, B'mailus HaChacham. He lists them as the qualities of a wise man. Kodam Medibur, before he speaks, he doesn't speak in front of anyone's greater than him. In the middle of his speech, he doesn't enter into the words of someone else. He doesn't enter into the words of Eino Nichnas to Tok Divrei Chavero. He doesn't go into the words of someone else. Okay, when his friend finishes, he finishes asking, Eino Nivhal Lashiv. So in other words, the Meiri lists these things in the order that they occur. First of all, when you begin to talk, don't start to talk if there's greater people. In the middle of the talk, don't interrupt anybody. When you finish talking, when someone's finished answering, then don't answer too quickly. Don't be rash in your answer. Number 4, when you're replying to a teacher, then you should ask properly. And if your marich, if the answer is very long, then you should say the first thing first and the second thing second. If all of a sudden you have a doubt, maybe what I'm saying is not right, say, Lo Shamati, these are things that I did not hear from any, I made this idea up myself, I think it's right. And when you finish speaking, when somebody disagrees with you, right, after the whole business, then you think about it, and if he's right, admit that he's right. And all these things we said, what? Chalufeim begolam, the opposite is in a fool. Hipucho shel kol hamidot elu, the opposite we find in a fool. That he speaks before people that are greater than him, he interrupts other people, he answers without thinking about his answer, and etc., all these things, the opposite. Good. Tomorrow we'll learn Mishnah 8. 7 type of terrible catastrophes occur to the Jews because of 7 sins. We'll leave that till tomorrow. Now we are